Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive right into a challenge that absolutely haunts sales leaders, hitting that dreaded revenue plateau and just not knowing how to break through. We're going to completely dismantle the traditional approach to scaling sales. We'll look at how organizations can shatter these plateaus by making a massive shift, moving away from just basic rep training and instead pouring their energy into manager coaching and incredibly disciplined pipeline reporting. If you want to know what literally moves the needle in a modern sales org, well, you're in the right place.
So here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the sales activity illusion, managers are the multiplier, a disciplined coaching system, the pipeline presentation trap, the three-layer review model, and finally, embracing risk and recovery. We're tracking the whole journey here, from the daily grind out in the field all the way to those high-stakes boardroom presentations.
Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty staggering number. I want you to picture a SaaS company that was just incredibly proud to report they were doing 47 product demos per quarter. On a dashboard, 47 demos looks fantastic. It's high-energy activity. The reps are busy, calendars are totally booked, and to the executive team, it honestly looks like the top of the funnel is as healthy as it gets. But here's the catch. This perfectly illustrates the illusion of activity. Out of those 47 demos, they only closed 3 deals. Just 3. That's a conversion rate of less than 7%. And the crazy thing is, the presentation they gave to the board to explain this, it was full of rigorous analysis and complex metrics, but it completely missed the point. The data was accurate, sure, but strategically it was completely hollow. They were generating a massive amount of motion, but virtually zero actual momentum. Which brings us to Section 1, the sales activity illusion, and moving beyond those vanity metrics. How do we actually fix this illusion of activity and start driving real, predictable revenue? How do we stop mistaking a busy calendar for a healthy pipeline? That leads us right into Section 2. Managers are the multiplier. The idea here is to stop fixing the reps and start fixing the managers. It's a hard truth from sales enablement expert Robert Roseberry, but companies waste enormous amounts of money trying to train their sales reps when the real leverage, the absolute key to scaling, is actually the manager. Think about this quote: "The training budget goes to the reps. The leverage is in the manager." It hits the nail on the head, right? The manager is the one who coaches, inspires, and holds the team accountable every single day. Sending a rep to a one-day training seminar or just buying some flashy new CRM system, that doesn't actually change daily behavior. The missing layer is a disciplined system built and maintained by a truly capable manager. And honestly, the results of making this shift are undeniable. By choosing to focus on the manager instead of just constantly retraining the reps, $100 million company was actually able to significantly shorten their sales cycle and grow their bookings by a massive 15%. That is exactly the kind of breakthrough that shatters a revenue plateau.
The core of this breakthrough comes down to a concept called sales fluency. Basically, sales fluency is the ability to listen precisely, build trust quickly, and guide a conversation with total confidence. But here's the real secret. It's not a software feature you can just buy or license. It's the core, fundamental skill needed to close deals, and it can literally only be unlocked by a great manager who knows exactly how to coach it out of their reps.
We really have to separate these two concepts: efficiency versus fluency. Technology and CRM tools, they provide efficiency. They automate tasks so your team has more time to actually sell. But having more time to sell is completely useless if you don't actually know how to sell. That's where fluency comes in. Manager coaching provides the fluency, giving your team the actual chops required to close. You need both, for sure, but you absolutely cannot use technology to compensate for a lack of coaching.
Moving on to Section 3, a disciplined coaching system. This is all about turning theory into field execution. Let's look at how we actually build that fluency so that what's learned in training actually sticks on the very next sales call. It boils down to this proven 6-step framework. You start by diagnosing the specific gap, building the skill, and practicing it. Pretty standard, right? But steps 4, 5, and 6, that's where the magic actually happens. Coaching in the field, holding the rep accountable, and measuring the change. Listen, great salespeople aren't just born, they are built. They're built through deliberate practice and honest, continuous feedback from their manager. It's a loop that guarantees sustained, high-level performance.
All right, Section 4, the pipeline presentation trap, where we look at defending versus explaining the numbers. So let's pivot from the field to the boardroom. You've done the coaching, you've got the deals. Now, how do you present all this to the executive team without falling flat on your face?
Well, you have to avoid what presentation expert Mary Beth Hazeldine calls the 18-slide trap. Sales leaders kind of have this habit of assuming that showing more data makes them look stronger. So they just dump 18 slides of incredibly granular data on the board. Win rates, stage distributions, velocity metrics, the whole shebang. It's a massive mistake. It confuses being comprehensive with actually having insight. Your audience does not need 12 different analytical lenses. They just need clarity.
Because when you show up with 18 slides of metrics, you usually aren't explaining the pipeline, you're defending it. You're basically building a giant wall of data to hide the fact that you might have some weak deals. And trust me, executives are trained to spot this defensive posture from a mile away. You have to shift from defensively hiding bad news to an insight-driven approach that just simply, confidently explains whether the revenue forecast is actually going to land.
At the end of the day, when you strip away all those complex charts and graphs, the board is really only asking one question. Are these deals real? They do not care if a rep quickly logged an interaction in the CRM. They are trying to gauge genuine buyer intent. Is there actual budget? Have you spoken to the real decision maker lately?
To answer that, you have to provide concrete qualification evidence. You need specificity. So don't just say waiting on approval, say it's currently in legal review. You need recency. Like, we've had 3 meetings in the last 2 weeks, and you absolutely need momentum. Expected signature is March 15th. Doing this bridges the gap between just hoping a deal closes and having actual concrete evidence that it will.
Let's move to Section 5, the 3-layer review model. Let's talk about what actually matters in a pipeline review and how to package all of this into a presentation the board will genuinely respect.
Mary Beth Hazeldine has this incredibly disciplined model. Layer 1 is the headline. Just give them the revenue forecast number and your exact confidence level. Boom. Layer 2 is the pipeline shape. Please do not show them 47 deals. Just show them the 3 to 5 key deals that make up 70 to 80% of that forecast. And Layer 3 is risk assessment. Honestly outline any obstacles or delays. This isn't being pessimistic. It's being realistic. It shows you actually understand the mechanics of your own business.
And here is the golden rule for pacing this whole thing. Your pipeline review should spend 80% of its time focusing solely on the deals that will close, the deals that are at risk, and the specific actions you are taking to address those risks. Everything else, it's just decoration. Keep your focus incredibly tight. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, Embracing Risk and Recovery. This is about managing the pipeline, not just passively reporting on it. Because look, every sales leader is going to eventually find something in their pipeline they'd really rather not show the board. A massive deal slips, or win rates suddenly drop. So what happens then?
Well, when a deal slips, you do not hide it. You deploy a recovery play. A recovery play is a specific, owned action with a clear timeline and an expected outcome. It's not just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. Rolling out a recovery play tells the board that you aren't just a passenger watching the numbers fall, you're in the driver's seat, actively managing the pipeline and anticipating risks before they completely tank the quarter.
When you have to deliver bad news, use this exact sequence. First, lead with the challenge. Name it clearly. Don't bury it under fluff. Second, show why it matters to the overall quarter. And third, detail exactly what your recovery action is. Say something like, the deal stalled in legal, so we've set up a peer-to-peer call between our general counsel and theirs for next Tuesday. I promise you, handling it like that builds incredible trust with a board.
And that trust all comes down to one ultimate metric: forecast accuracy. That is the single metric that predicts whether your pipeline review is actually successful. It's not about how massive your pipeline is. It's about whether the board can actually rely on the number you're giving them. If you forecast 1.5 million and you close 1.4 million, your accuracy is sky high, and executive confidence in you is going to go through the roof.
So I'll leave you with this provocative question to take away, and I really want you to answer it honestly for your own organization. Are you just passively reporting on your pipeline, or are you actively managing it? From empowering your managers to build fluency out in the field, to stripping away those vanity metrics in the boardroom, breaking a revenue plateau requires absolute, unwavering discipline at every single level. It's time to start actively managing your revenue reality today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.